everyone, it's Haley, and today we are going to be talking about my top 15 of 2015 so far, because the year is not over yet, my friends. So I figured since last month we were officially halfway through the year, it was appropriate to do my top 15 so far, because I have plans to read 150 books, and picking just 15 from that at the end of the year is going to be very difficult. So I'm going to be splitting this video up into two parts. The second part will be my top 15 of 2015 for like the whole entire year. So I'm not sure if I'm just going to do it from like July on or if I'll do it for the whole year. I don't know yet, but yeah. Anyways, let's just get into the video. And to avoid being repetitive, I'm going to be linking any reviews that I have for any of these books down below, because I have reviewed a lot of them. So if I do have a review for it up, it will be linked down below, and also I'll have one of those card things. I don't know what side it comes up on, but I'll have the card thing that suggests that you go to it, and then it will open in a new window. Okay, now let's actually get into the video. So I'm going to be doing these in order from least favorite to favorite, but obviously they're all my favorites, so even my least favorite is still very high on my list. So coming in at number 15, I have As You Like It by William Shakespeare. I haven't read Shakespeare for fun in a very long time, like 4 years or something like that. It has been a while, and I read this last month and I just absolutely loved it. I loved the writing, I loved the characters. It's one of his comedies, so it's like this whole web of people pretending to be something that they're not. Like, we have people who are blatantly like women dressing as men, but then we also have people who are kind of like denying who they actually are, and it just made for this just like tangled web of pretending, and it was just really funny, and I would definitely recommend this one. I'll talk more about it in my video that I'm going to do, my little guide to Shakespeare, but I think this would be a great one to start off with. It was just so funny and I really enjoyed it. Coming in at number 14 is Beauty Queens by Libba Bray. I am a really big fan of Libba Bray. I have read 2 of her books and I have loved both of them. This one is very different than the other one I read. I've read The Diviners, which is a historical fiction, and this one is a satire. It's like a satire survival story, and it was honestly just so like enjoyable and fun-loving, but it also packed a real punch because it deals with so many important issues like feminism and LGBT things, and it's all like dealt with satirically, so it was just really enjoyable. I loved all the characters and the idea of having these beauty pageant contestants crash land on an island and have to work together to survive and not only overcome personal issues, but also like overcome the issue of being a girl and being especially a pageant contestant and being kind of looked at as this like pretty perfect thing. I just really loved this book. It was very refreshing and it was really different and quirky and out there, and I just thought it was so enjoyable. Then coming in at number 13, I have a Canadian classic, and that is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. This was surprising to me because I grew up watching the movies because my mom loves this story, and I didn't really like them too much. I don't really know why. I think I was just a kid and I just wasn't that big of a fan. But when I read it for my Canadian literature course this year, I absolutely fell in love with this story. It brought me back to my childhood, not just because of nostalgic reasons, but also because Anne is just such a lovable character who's so full of wonder and imagination, and she just makes you want to be a kid again and see the world in a different way. It's honestly just such a heartwarming story, and I can definitely see why it is a classic. I recommend this to every single Canadian and really to anyone out there because it's such a fabulous story. Coming in at number 12, I have These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. This one was another surprise because if you've been following my channel for a while, then you know that I'm not that big of a fan of sci-fi. I just can't really get into it for some reason, but I really loved this one. I loved the character dynamic and the whole mystery of the planet that they crash on. They have to try and figure out how to survive and figure out what's going on with this planet. Like, are they actually the only ones there, or are there other people there, or other life forms? I just found it to be a really enjoyable story, and I really liked how it was kind of Titanic-esque in the beginning. I really just liked everything about it. I was a really big fan of this story, surprisingly, and I'm really excited to read the next one in the companion novel series thing, whatever it is. Coming in at number 11 is another surprise, and that is Splintered by A.G. Howard. I am a huge fan of Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. Through the Looking Glass is one of my favorite books of all time, and because of that I had pretty low expectations for this book because it is a retelling of Alice in Wonderland, but I really loved it. It was a very like Tim Burton-esque reimagining of Wonderland. I love the fact that the main character was she was like the great granddaughter of Alice Little, who is like the real life Alice of the Alice in Wonderland stories, and I just really loved the grotesque characters and just the whole world. The imagery was so vivid, and it really did a fabulous job of paying homage to Carroll's Wonderland, and I just really enjoyed it. Coming in at number 10, I have Just One Day by Gayle Forman. This one was another surprise because I read If I Stay by Gayle Forman way back in the day, and I didn't really like it, but I ended up really loving this one. It's a love story that takes place in Paris in just one day, but it is so much more than that, and I really loved that. I thought it was just going to be a romance story, but it's not. It's a story about like self-discovery and self-acceptance and kind of learning to be an independent woman, and I really loved it. I loved traveling the world over the course of the duology, and I just thought it was a really interesting story, and I really appreciated it. I could relate a lot to the main character, and I just thought it was fabulously written. I really loved it. Now coming in at number 9, I have A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I'm not going to get too much into detail with this book because I need to reread it because I think I read it way too fast and I don't really remember too much of what happened in it, but I just remember it was a fabulous Beauty and the Beast retelling. The world and the characters were so just vivid and amazing, and I really loved all of them and the whole world. Like, I felt like I could get lost in it. I loved the whole concept of it being a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but with so many little quirks that were added to it, like the idea of fae and all that stuff. I really enjoyed it, and of course Sarah J. Maas's writing is fabulous, and honestly I swear her characters, like, she cannot write a character that I hate. Like, if she wants me to hate a character, then I will hate it because she writes it so, like, they're so evil, the evil characters, but then the ones that she wants you to love, you cannot help but love. Like, oh, just fabulous. And coming in at number 8 is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. You're probably wondering why this is an Heir of Fire, but once again, I think I read Heir of Fire too fast and I need to reread it because I don't really remember too much, but nonetheless, I enjoyed Crown of Midnight more than Heir of Fire, I think. This one had a lot of character development and plot development, so many twists and turns I wasn't expecting, and it just really like sent the whole story in a different direction, and I really loved it. I love the fact that you found out more about other characters. Kale, love him. It was just really fabulous. Coming in at number 7 is Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. This is another one where I can't get too much into why I loved it so much without spoiling things. I just thought that the connection between the two characters was so like real and raw, and the emotion in this was just, it was so emotion packed, but it also was a really fun and lighthearted read at the same time. I just really loved the character dynamic. I wasn't that big of a fan of the main female character, but I really loved the main male character, and kind of their connection just really made me love the story. It was just so awesome, and I loved the musical aspect to it. This has a CD accompanying it, and it just made reading this such an experience, and I really enjoyed it. On that same note, coming in at number 6 is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. This one is a little bit of a different one than Maybe Someday, because Maybe Someday has that element of heartbreak that Colleen Hoover is really well known for, but it also has a real lightheartedness to it. This one is much more sexy, but also heartbreaking, like despairingly heartbreaking, and it also has such a raw emotion to it. Like, I just felt like the tension and like between the two characters was so palpable, and all the feelings, like, oh my god, it was so intense, but it was such a beautiful read. I can't get over this book. It was really fabulous. I just loved it. Now for my top 5 books of the year so far. Coming in at number 5 is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. This book got so much hype when it first came out, and honestly, I completely understand why. The world of this book is so brutal and crazy. Like, it honestly gave me nightmares. That's how good it was. Like, it was clearly very well fleshed out, since I felt like I was actually living in it when I was dreaming, and it was very, very scary. Do not recommend it. It's an empire that is based off of the ancient Roman Empire, and obviously, knowing that, you know it's going to be pretty brutal, and it really delivered. It delivered in the wow factor, and the plot was crazy. This book wasn't what I expected at all, because it wasn't romance heavy, like, in the least. It was a lot of characters being stuck in situations that they could not get out of, and it was just really sad for that reason. Like, you just wanted to help the characters, but they were just so stuck, and it was just, oh, this book was so many things, and it was just really, really fabulous. I loved it. Coming in at number 4 is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. This was another surprise for me. I wasn't expecting to like it too much, but I loved it. I loved the writing, I loved the mythology behind it and the paranormal aspect. I loved the characters. I just fell in love with the world of the Raven Boys and the Raven Boys themselves. I just loved them so much, and I loved Blue being kind of stuck in their universe. It was just so great. Oh, and there's so much mystery surrounding it. I just really, really loved it. It was just so good. Coming in at number 3 is The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Adi. I figured out how to pronounce this yesterday, but I forget, so yeah, I can't say it. I'm sorry. But this book is supposed to be a fairy tale retelling of 1000 Nights. I forget what the fairy tale is called, but it honestly reads like it's a fairy tale itself. The writing was so beautiful and fluid, like it's some of the best writing I have read in a really long time, and it was just so fabulous. Like, I honestly felt like I was reading an old fairy tale or an old myth, and I love the characters and the connection between them. I just thought it was so interesting, and there are so many levels to this story. It has so many subplots. It has a political level, it has a romantic level, like, there's just so much going on in this story, and it all works together to make this beautifully crafted tale, and I loved it. Coming in at number 2 is Snow Like Ashes by Sarah Rosh. I loved this book so much. I cannot wait for the second one to come out this year. I loved the universe that is created with the kingdoms. Like, they were just so cool to me, and all of the characters and the plot twists, I did not see any of them coming, and it was just such a fabulous story. Like, I can't even coherently tell you how much I loved it, because I just loved it so much. I feel like I've said that so many times in this video, but I just have such love for all these books. And finally, for my number 1 book of the year so far, this book has held that spot since the beginning of the year, because it is also the very first book that I read this year, and I don't see it being usurped anytime soon, and that is The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender by Leslie Walton. You guys by now probably know how much I love this book. I just think it's such a fabulous story. It's a magical realism about a girl who was born with wings, and it's told, first it tells the story of her great-great-grandmother, I think, and then her great-grandmother, and then her grandmother, and then her mother, or maybe it's just her great-mother, I don't know. You get the point. And then it tells the story of herself. So it is just, you feel like you know all of the characters so well, and you know the little street they live on, the little town they live in. Like, you're just so familiar with the world of this story, and in such a short time, because it's not a very long book, you just fall in love with it. And the writing was so beautiful. It was so lyrical and just amazing. Like, I can't even describe it. I just really love this story. It was so out there and quirky, and honestly, if you have started reading this and you didn't love it at first, get to chapter 4, and then if you don't like it after chapter 4, then give up. But if you'll start loving it after chapter 4. Like, I guarantee you will start loving it after chapter 4, because it is a little bit slow in the beginning, but then it just all comes together in the end, and it is so beautiful. So those are all of my favorite books so far that I have read in 2015. Let me know what some of your favorites are that you've read so far this year, and let me know your thoughts on any of the books that I mentioned. So yeah, like I said, if you want to know any more about the summaries of these books, or any more like in-depth, more coherent thoughts about them, I will have the reviews linked down below for any of the books that I have reviewed. Some of them I plan on reviewing in the future, like the ones that I have read more recently. Those reviews will be to come. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!